I think overall BookTok is a good thing. I think there's just a lot of bad recommendations on there. Hello, welcome to today's video. Today I'd like to talk about some BookTok books and whether or not they're worth the hype. I think that overall BookTok is a good thing, but I think that in any community there is going to be drama and there are going to be bad eggs. And sometimes those bad eggs crack and leave their gross bad egg everywhere, you know? So without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm gonna go in chronological order of what I read first. So starting with The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I read this before BookTok was a thing. I read it in 2017 maybe? I loved this book. It made me sob my eyes out. I remember reading it at school. I had a private study and I was reading and I had to stop because I was starting to cry. I think this book deserves the hype. Even before BookTok on BookTube and Bookstagram, it kind of has waves of popularity. Right now it's not getting talked about as much, but inevitably in a few months everyone's going to be talking about this book again. I think this book almost launched the trend on BookTok of like mythology and retelling, because I see that stuff all the time and there are so many that I'd like to pick up, and I really think that the popularity of this book is why a lot of those books are getting more attention. I'm sorry about my voice, it's very deep this morning. I don't know why, but we're working with it. This next book is so popular and I think is only going to get more popular with the movie coming out, and that is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I had heard this book talked about in the lead up to it being published. I remember hearing people talking about their arcs, and once it came out I saw one video about it and picked it up that night. The video was like super simple, just like, hey, I read this book and I really liked it, you should read it. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I read this book and I finished it within like a day or two, and then I read it 3 more times that week. And yeah, I just really love this book. So I am totally biased. It is one of my favorite books. I think it's worth the hype. I think it deserves more hype. This feels like exactly the kind of book that would get popular on BookTok. I don't really know what I mean by that, but I know what I mean by that. It's lighthearted and it's romantic and it's like got the slightest touch of spice that BookTok likes so much, and it's just good. Honestly, in my opinion, it deserves more hype, but I think that if it did get more hype, people wouldn't like it. It's one of those things where like, I think it could very easily be overdone, but I adore this book so much. I'm not gonna get talking about it because when I start, I can't stop. So I'm just gonna put it down and move on. This next one to me is the BookTok book. Like back in the day when I'd think of BookTok, I think of The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This book did the rounds on BookTok and I picked it up, I read it, I enjoyed it. I don't think it deserved the hype that it got. That's not to say it's not good. Everyone has their own specific tastes and this just was not mine. I also don't know how it got the popularity that it did. This book is published fanfiction, which I don't actually have a problem with. I think that a lot of fanfiction is so separate from the source material and the characters' personalities change and the setting changes, and it basically has no connection to the original other than like the appearance of the characters. And I mean, people are pretty basic. Like, to me, saying that a character has this color hair and this color eyes isn't enough to say it's like plagiarism. For me, the issue with this book is that it's published Reylo fanfiction and the love interest's name is Adam, like Adam Driver, who played Kylo Ren, and that the cover shows them looking exactly like their characters down to like the hairstyle. And so there is no way in my mind to separate this from the source material. Even then though, like, the book was fine. I have no issue with this book. I just don't understand why it got so popular. Also, people talk about like how spicy it is and it's like so good. There was like one spicy scene and like it was whatever. Honestly, there is no way in my mind to take that scene seriously. Some of the lines are just a bit strange. Yeah, I don't know. This book was fine. I don't think it deserves the hype that it got though. My last issue with this book is the fact that it's got one of those non-removable stickers and it says the TikTok sensation. Something about that, I just hate it, but that's a me thing, so. This next book has been talked about online for years. I remember hearing about it on BookTube and Bookstagram so much, and then hearing about it a little bit on TikTok, and that is If We Were Villains by ellaloux. I feel like this book is mostly talked about in like the dark academia section of BookTok, and rightfully so. This book does have like major dark academia vibes, but I think that it deserves more hype than it has. This book was incredible. I understand that it's probably not for everyone, but it is for me. It's not super fast-paced, and I think BookTok prefers things to be fast-paced, but it is slow and you sit with it and it's beautifully written and the characters are complex and it's beautiful. I think that if this book was more fast-paced, more people would talk about it, because there is that thing online where people try and read like so many books. People don't want to necessarily like take time with a book, and I think this book can only be appreciated if you read it slowly and don't try and speed through it. It took me quite a while to read this book, a few weeks, and I loved it, and after I finished it I just kind of sat there like staring out at the middle distance, just being like, whoa. But I think this book is worth the hype. I think it deserves more hype. I want more people to talk about this book. I love this book. The next book is one that has been getting a lot of attention on BookTok, rightfully so, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is so incredible. It's been getting more attention as news of the movie slowly is coming out. Not that really any news has come out. Everyone just really wants Jessica Chastain as a certain character in this story, which like I'm so on board with. On April Fool's Day there were a bunch of like casting announcements or rumors that went around that were terrifying, but I think that when the movie comes out this is going to get so much more attention, and it deserves it. This book was incredible. I do think that out of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, this should have gotten the miniseries and Daisy Jones should have gotten the movie. That is my opinion. It's an opinion I've seen shared online. But this book was so hyped for a while, and I think it still is, but I really do think it deserves it. I think that this book was incredible. I think that it's complex, and I like that Evelyn Hugo isn't this like one-dimensional character. She's also not all good. She does some bad things, and I like that in a main character. But yes, I think this book deserves all of the hype and more, and I'm sure it's going to get more when more news of the movie comes out. We have one more book to talk about, of course, because it's me, we're gonna talk about it. It's Six of Crows. I wanted to read this book from before it was published, and then it was published and I forgot about it. I bought a copy like 2 or 3 years ago, didn't read it until earlier this year. This book is incredible. It's been getting so much hype on BookTok with season 2 of Shadow and Bone coming out and news that there is a potential spin-off for Six of Crows. This book deserves all of the attention and more. I genuinely don't know if this book is popular on BookTok or if my For You page is just so curated to me that every video is about this book. So I have talked about this book at length so many times. I will link some of that below, but I think this book deserves every bit of hype possible. I think that Leigh Bardugo is just so good at characters. This is a character-driven story. There is plot there, a lot of plot, complicated plot that honestly I don't fully understand, but I think Leigh Bardugo really does write interesting, complex characters. There are 6 main characters in this book and I love all of them equally, and that just doesn't happen. But yes, if you're like me and you've been hearing about this book and you're interested but you just haven't picked it up, please pick it up. It's worth it. Do it. It's so good. I read this book 2 months ago and I haven't stopped thinking about it, and I think that says a lot about how good it is, and I think it deserves all of the hype. I think it deserves more hype. I think it deserves its own spin-off. I think the Crows deserve the world. I really do love that book, and so I'm going to stop talking because, again, there are hours of me talking about this book. So yes, those are all the books that I'm going to talk about today. I read most of them because of BookTok. Some of them I heard about in other ways, but they are popular on there. There are so many more books that I'm interested in reading because of BookTok, So if you'd like to see a part 2 to this video, let me know. Let me know if there are any BookTok books that you think I should read. I'd love to do another one of these because I think it's really interesting to see what gets recommended to like the masses compared to like more personal recommendations that I get from people that I know. It's also really interesting to see what the algorithm thinks I'm gonna like. But with that said, I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe. I upload twice a week and I will see you next time. Bye.